Before we begin, I'd like to explain why this video got uploaded late. Well, I was in the midst of completing all of the menu books in Gran Turismo 7, and the final one they had to finish was the Red Bull X 2019 Nations Cup. Well, there might be another menu book after this. But still, it was the hardest menu book in the whole entire game. Yeah, the Red Bull X 2019 Nations Cup wasn't always this hard, but due to all the physics changes, it was borderline near impossible. Yeah, it was possible, but it was still tricky. And that meant I had to get creative with some of the races. And I also recorded footage for the bonus content, which will be featured in the end. So yeah, that's what took me so long. That's why this video got uploaded late. So, the more you know. Yeah, it's always good to explain why your video gets uploaded late. Just so that some of your subscribers will become aware. But anyways, on to the main event. Or the main feature is what I meant to say. Anyways, on to the video. Greetings F1 enjoyers, and for the first time, I am including the sprint race in an F1 race review because whenever I do Formula 1 race reviews, it's always the main race. But this time, the sprint race gets included. But anyways, this is the first part of the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix, and the sprint race begins with the usual formation lap to get to the grid and Lando Norris jumping to the lead as he usually does. Alonso is under pressure as Leclerc is right behind him. And the race gets yellow flagged for a brief moment. Antonelli is running in second. Holy crapper, he has competition. Well, barely. Despite this, Norris just keeps getting faster and faster. Albon is in 12th. And the race gets yellow flagged again. There's a huge wreck going on that is caused by water. Colapinto, Piastri, and Hulkenberg spin out. And yeah, in case you're wondering, Colapinto, Franco Colapinto to be more precise, yeah, you'd think that he's French or Italian, but no, he's actually from Argentina. I didn't know this at first. Like, I thought the guy was French or Italian, but he's from Argentina, despite his name sounding like he would come from France or Italy. Yeah, the more you know. Colapinto took a hard hit and Hulkenberg got damage done to his front wing. In other words, no one is safe. Lassa is under investigation for the incident with Behrman. Because the incident is so severe, the race had to get red flagged again. But it is a very severe incident though. But anyways, the race restarts with Norris leading and Russell attempting to overtake his teammate Antonelli. Leclerc is seen running down Alonso while Hamilton has to deal with the other accident, that's Lance Stroll. Gasly is also tailing Stroll. Norris has also switched to the softs. Ocon manages to get past Lassa for 13th, and usually in a sprint race no pit stops are needed, but here Norris had to switch to the softs to gain an advantage. Antonelli locks up and it seems that winds are causing issues for the drivers themselves. The tires of Norris's car start wearing out, and this could mean that Antonelli could get past him. Antonelli isn't able to get past him. Leclerc finally managed to get past Alonso. Even on lap 23, Antonelli still isn't able to get past Norris. On the final lap, Bortoleto crashes out and the race ends under a yellow. Don't you hate it when that happens? Lando Norris won yet another sprint race. But anyways, the sprint race was good despite the late yellow. It gets an 8 out of 10. On to the main feature. Here we go, we're on to the main event. The main race begins with a formation lap to get to the grid and Lando Norris jumping to the lead. Hajar is forced a bit wide while Antonelli warms up his tires to get closer to Norris. And the race gets yellow flagged right when there's contact with Alonso and Bortoleto. Lewis Hamilton got front wing damage as there was contact with him and Sainz and Bortoleto also got wrecked out. Dang, we're not even a lap in and there's already chaos. Because of this, the safety car had to be deployed. But anyways, the race restarts with Lando Norris continuing to lead. What a big surprise, am I right? Contact ensues with Antonelli and Piastri, and then Antonelli gets forced into the runoff area, and another yellow flag gets thrown. Piastri's car sustains some damage due to the contact. The virtual safety car had to be deployed. Leclerc also gets into the wall. Dang it! Good lord, there's so much chaos going on in the early parts of the race. Verstappen also got a puncture and had to go down to pit road, but anyways. The race restarts with Norris and Piastri running 1-2. Piastri got noted by the stewards for causing a collision. Russell overtakes Hajar for 4th. Bearman gets past Lawson. Verstappen gets past Hamilton, and Tsunoda gets penalized for causing a collision with Lance Stroll. Yeah, he must have really hated Lance Stroll or something. Something must have really ticked him off. Holy crapper, there's so much going on they can't keep up. Hamilton comes down to pit road. Verstappen is now in 13th. Piastri is under investigation for causing a collision. Man, nothing gets by the stewards. Yeah, do not race dirty or you will get penalized by the stewards. That's how it goes in Formula 1. Holy crapper, Verstappen is at 12th, has gotten past Hulkenberg. He even overtakes the 2006 world champion for 11th. That's Fernando Alonso, by the way. Is there anything that can stop him? Before you know it, he's in 9th, he's now in 7th, and he's in 5th. He can't be stopped. Antonelli comes down to pit road, and Verstappen is now in 4th. Tsunoda comes down to pit road, and Piastri gets penalized. Well, it was coming. Alonso and Antonelli are battling for 7th. Tsunoda gets penalized, and he didn't even serve his penalty right. Yeah, there must have been some miscommunications. Yuki Tsunoda didn't even serve a penalty right. Yeah, he didn't even serve his penalty right. He could get double penalized, which is the worst thing that could happen to any Formula 1 driver. Ah, crap. Lewis Hamilton gets another penalty. Good lord, he is still not looking good so far. Yeah, his 2025 season has been a disaster. But yeah, he's staying with Ferrari. Lando Norris comes down to pit road and Verstappen overtakes him while making his exit. Verstappen has just went from 17th all the way up to 3rd. Norris got past Verstappen. Tsunoda gets a penalty on top of his other penalty that he failed to serve. Yeah, I've never seen that before. I've never seen that instance in motorsports where a driver gets a penalty, and then fails to serve the penalty, and then gets another penalty on top of that. It's crazy, isn't it? Verstappen comes down to pit road. Hulkenberg is next to come down to pit road. Verstappen is back at 6th. Hajar comes down to pit road. Piastri is next to come down to pit road, and had to serve his penalty, meaning that Verstappen got past him. Piastri and Lawson battle for 6th, and Piastri managed to get past him. Bearman makes his pit stop, and Verstappen is back and forth. Bearman gets past Alonso. Verstappen is in 2nd, and he's leading as Norris made his final pit stop of the day. Piastri also made his pit stop. Piastri is back at 6th. Verstappen takes the risk to make his 3rd pit stop. Piastri got past Lawson for 5th. Holy crapper, Verstappen got past Russell, even on the final lap. Verstappen still hasn't been able to get past Antonelli, which is crazy, considering that Max Verstappen is a 4-time world champion and Kimi Antonelli is basically just some nobody who got thrown into a seat. Anyhow, Urinating Tree said it best. Kimi Antonelli is 2nd in this economy? That sums it up right there. And just like that, Lando Norris wins this year's Brazilian Grand Prix. As expected, we get our interviews, driver talk in the cooldown room, and the winning driver's national anthem that gets played in Victory Lane. Yeah, it's something that Formula 1 always has. Or the podium, as the foreigners like to call it. The main feature race of the Brazilian Grand Prix gets a 9 out of 10. Yeah, like, I was rooting for Verstappen to win, but he didn't win. And if he was in the front, he would have done better. The race was still pretty amazing. Yeah, it was probably one of the most exciting Formula 1 races that I've seen in the modern era, and hopefully things will shake up in Vegas. Seeing Antonelli defend against Verstappen would be like seeing a 5-year-old win against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because this doesn't happen in Formula 1. A 4-time world champion getting his butt handed to him by some teenager as old as Connor Zilic, who got a Mercedes seat. Yeah, crazy, is it? But anyways, I am going to sign off, and, well, before I sign off, here's some bonus content of the Pikes Peak Cruiser at the same track as this race review. So let's go! Bye.